Before the shoes, the rings, the banners, the billion-dollar brand, there was a kid with a dream, a fire that couldn't be taught, and a heart that refused to quit. And what followed wasn't just a career, it was a revolution, a journey of failure, obsession, pain, greatness, loss, and redemption, told not through statistics, but through moments that made us believe in something bigger than basketball. Because this isn't just the story of Michael Jordan, the athlete. This is the story of Michael Jordan, the symbol, of grit, of growth, of legacy, and of what it truly means to chase greatness and never look back. Roots of greatness, the early years. Sometimes the ones who change the world don't arrive with noise. They arrive with purpose, and in the quiet of a Brooklyn hospital on February 17, 1963, Michael Jeffrey Jordan took his first breath, unaware that his name would one day echo across stadiums, playgrounds, and history books. But it wasn't the city lights of New York that raised him. It was Wilmington, North Carolina, where the real story began. A small town life filled with family, discipline, and dreams, where Michael grew up in a house that valued hard work and heart, where his father taught him the power of precision and his mother the importance of humility, where competition between brothers wasn't just play, it was preparation. And while he loved baseball first, it was the basketball court that started to whisper to him, calling him into something deeper, though the path wasn't smooth. Because in high school, he didn't make the varsity team, and the world might have seen just a teenager left off a roster. But inside, something bigger happened. A fire lit, a decision made, a promise whispered to himself. This won't be the end of my story. And so he trained alone, morning by morning, night by night, turning rejection into repetition, doubt into discipline, tears into tenacity, until he came back not just stronger, but transformed, not just with skills, but with something even rarer, an obsession with being better than yesterday. And soon colleges started noticing, but it was the University of North Carolina and the wise, steady hands of Coach Dean Smith that gave him the foundation, the structure, and the confidence to rise, because before the fame, before the titles, before the air, there was just a kid with a ball, a dream, and a soul that refused to be ordinary. College champion, the Tar Heel triumph. By the time he put on that Carolina blue jersey, Michael Jordan wasn't just playing for a college team. He was stepping onto a stage that would test his heart, his focus, and his hunger. And though he was just a freshman at the University of North Carolina, there was already something different in his eyes. Calm, determined, waiting for the moment that would change everything. And it came in 1982 in the national championship game against Georgetown. Score tight, clock ticking, pressure mounting. And with the world holding its breath, the ball found Michael with 15 seconds left, and like he had rehearsed it 1,000 times in silence, he rose, released, and let destiny take over. Swish, game winner, title secured, and in that one shot, a star wasn't just born, it was confirmed, because it wasn't just about skill, it was about poise, about being the calm in chaos, the stillness in the storm. From that moment, he was no longer just a promising player. He was the player, earning national attention, Player of the Year awards, and the respect of legends long before stepping into the NBA. But Michael didn't let it get to his head, because his roots ran deep, and he knew that humility is the only soil strong enough to grow greatness. So he kept grinding, kept studying the game, kept becoming not just a scorer, but a student, a teammate, a leader. And in 1984, with his dream now calling louder than ever, Michael made the decision to leave college and declare for the NBA draft. Not because he was done growing, but because he was ready to grow on a bigger stage. Because this wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about answering the call of legacy in the world, was about to witness what happens when purpose meets preparation. A Star is Born, Chicago and the rookie sensation. In 1984, the city of Chicago didn't know it yet, but something extraordinary was about to walk into their lives. A 21-year-old kid with quiet confidence and lightning in his veins, picked third in the NBA draft, passed up by two teams, yet carrying a fire that burned brighter with every slight, every doubt, every whisper that he wasn't the one. And when Michael Jordan put on that Bulls jersey for the first time, it wasn't just fabric on skin, it was purpose stitched into history, because from the moment he stepped on the court, everything changed. He wasn't just scoring points, he was lifting a city, redefining what a rookie could be, making crowds rise, defenders freeze, and dreams feel real. Averaging over 28 points per game, flying through the air like he belonged somewhere beyond gravity, Michael brought electricity to Chicago, not just through highlight reels or sold-out arenas, but through something deeper, the belief that greatness was now possible. Fans filled the stadium, kids stuck their tongues out mimicking his moves, and even though some veterans tried to freeze him out, jealous of the attention, the spotlight, the roar, Michael didn't flinch, didn't complain, because he knew who he was, and more importantly, he knew where he was going. He won Rookie of the Year, yes, but what he really earned was trust, was love, was fear from opponents and hope from fans. Because Chicago wasn't just watching a young talent rise, they were witnessing the birth of a new era, and the league was waking up to the fact that this wasn't just a player. This was a storm, wearing number 23. Jordan versus the Bad Boys, early playoff heartbreaks. Greatness doesn't just rise, it gets tested, pushed, broken, and rebuilt. And for Michael Jordan, that test came dressed in bruises, elbows, and bruising defense. It came in the form of the Detroit Pistons, known as the Bad Boys, a team that didn't just want to beat you, they wanted to break you. And year after year, when the playoffs came and the lights got brighter, Michael carried the Bulls on his back with everything he had, his scoring titles, all-star appearances, MVP caliber performances. But each time he ran into Detroit, the ending was the same. Pain, defeat, frustration, and a silence that echoed louder than the cheers, because the Pistons had a plan. The Jordan rules, a defensive scheme built to hurt him, to push him to the floor every time he tried to fly, to wear him down physically, emotionally, mentally. And for 3 straight seasons, they sent him home empty-handed. And yet, he never ran, never made excuses, never blamed. He looked inward, took the losses personally, and instead of folding, he evolved. He hit the weights, added muscle, worked on his mind, studied the game like scripture, and turned pain into fuel, failure into obsession, because Michael didn't just want to win. He wanted to conquer the part of himself that feared losing, and little by little, the boy who used to cry after playoff losses was becoming a machine, built for war, built for legacy. And while the world was cheering for the magic and flash of his highlights, behind the scenes he was grinding, waiting, because he knew that sooner or later the storm would pass, the door would open, and when it did, he wouldn't just step through, he would tear it off its hinges. The dynasty begins. First three-peat. After years of heartbreak, pain, and transformation, the time had finally come. In 1991, Michael Jordan and the Bulls weren't just chasing a championship anymore. They were ready to take it, built not just on talent, but on scars, growth, and unity, with Phil Jackson bringing zen to the madness and Scottie Pippen rising as the perfect partner in flight. And when they finally swept the Pistons, the same team that had haunted them, it wasn't just a win, it was an exorcism, a shift of power. And in the finals against Magic Johnson and the Lakers, Michael didn't flinch. He soared, switching hands midair in one of the most iconic plays in basketball history, as if to say, "This is my league now." The Bulls won their first title, and when that final buzzer sounded, Jordan didn't scream. He cried, clutching the ball like it carried every ounce of the pain he'd ever felt, because this wasn't just a victory. It was a release, a fulfillment, a beginning. And it didn't stop there. In 1992, they ran it back, this time taking down Clyde Drexler and the Portland Trail Blazers, with Jordan hitting 6 three-pointers in the first half of Game 1, then shrugging as if to say, "Even I can't believe what I'm becoming." And the world was witnessing a man transforming into myth. Then came 1993, the Phoenix Suns, Charles Barkley, a brutal series that pushed them to the edge. But once again, Michael delivered, dropping 41 points per game in the finals, the highest average ever, sealing the third straight title. And just like that, the Bulls weren't just champions. They were a dynasty, and Jordan wasn't just the best. He was becoming untouchable, a force that didn't just play basketball, but redefined what was possible through it. Through work, through will, through the soul of a man who once didn't make varsity, now standing on top of the world with 3 rings, and the fire still burning. The price of fame, tragedy, and retirement. By 1993, Michael Jordan stood at the top of the world. 3 championships, global fame, Air Jordan on every billboard, a living legend in his prime. But what no one saw behind the cameras and commercials was the quiet weight he carried, the exhaustion of always being on, of being the symbol, the target, the hero, the expectation. And in the midst of his greatest success, life delivered its cruelest blow, the tragic murder of his father, James Jordan, his best friend, his guiding light, the man who taught him how to dream and stay grounded, taken in an act of senseless violence. And suddenly the spotlight didn't shine the same. The cheers didn't echo the same, because fame had given him everything. But now it felt like it had taken the one thing that truly mattered. And so in the shock and the sorrow, Michael did the unthinkable. He walked away, announcing his retirement from basketball at the peak of his powers. Not because he couldn't play, but because he couldn't breathe. Because he needed space, silence, healing, and maybe to feel like a son again. And in a move that stunned the world, he turned to baseball, the sport his father had once dreamed of for him. Chasing connection more than success, swinging a bat not for records, but for memory, for love, for grief. And though the world was confused, maybe even disappointed, Michael didn't care. Because for once, this journey wasn't about proving the world wrong. It was about remembering who he was without the jersey, the cameras, the roar. A man searching for meaning in a moment when even legends break. I'm back. The return and the second three-peat. Sometimes legends don't end. They pause. And in 1995, after 17 months away from the game, after grief, silence, and soul-searching, Michael Jordan returned. Not with a grand speech or a big announcement, just 2 simple words that shook the world. I'm back. And with that, the king stepped back onto the court, not for attention, but for redemption, wearing the number 45, a different jersey, but the same fire in his eyes. And though he wasn't quite himself in those early games, the magic hadn't left. You could see it in flashes, in the fadeaways, in the drive, in the way defenders still held their breath when he touched the ball. But that year, the Bulls fell short, losing to the Orlando Magic. And it was like fate whispered to him, not yet, but what Michael heard instead was, get ready. So he went to work in silence, reshaping his body, sharpening his mind, reclaiming that hunger. And in the 1995-96 season, he returned as a storm, leading the Bulls to a record-breaking 72-win season, the greatest the league had ever seen. And when they reached the finals and faced the Seattle Supersonics, it wasn't just about winning. It was about honoring his father. And after lifting that 4th trophy on Father's Day, with tears in his eyes and the game ball pressed to his forehead, Michael reminded us all. Some victories go beyond the scoreboard, but he wasn't done. In '97, it was the Utah Jazz. And even when his body gave out in Game 5, dehydrated and sick with the flu, he played through the pain, dropped 38 points, and collapsed into Scotty's arms like a warrior too tired to stand, but too proud to stop, because that's who Michael was. And in '98, with the dynasty aging and cracks starting to show, the Bulls faced the Jazz again. And in Game 6, with 5.2 seconds left, Michael stole the ball, dribbled slowly, calmly, then crossed over Brian Russell and hit the last shot of his Bulls career. A perfect, poetic punctuation mark that froze time, sealed his 6th title, and gave the world one final reminder. This wasn't just basketball. It was art, poetry, and purpose wrapped in one man, whose story was never about the points he scored, but the legacy he built every time he refused to let the moment define him. Beyond the game, business, legacy, and ownership. Even after the sneakers were hung up and the final buzzer sounded, Michael Jordan's story didn't fade. It evolved because greatness doesn't retire, it reinvents. And for MJ, life beyond the hardwood became a new kind of court, one where vision, ownership, and legacy took center stage. From launching the Jordan brand into a global empire that transcended sport and became a cultural force, to entering the business world with the same fire he once brought to Game Sevens, becoming not just a face on billboards, but the architect behind billion-dollar deals. The first former athlete to become a majority owner of an NBA franchise, the Charlotte Hornets, showing a new generation that impact isn't just made by scoring. It's made by building, by opening doors, by leading at tables where few people who look like him had ever been invited. And through it all, Jordan never chased the spotlight. He let his actions speak, letting his silence hold the same power his jump shots once did, mentoring quietly, giving back through philanthropy, pushing for social justice, and proving that true legacy isn't just what you do when people are watching. It's what you build when no one is. Because while the world will always remember the dunks, the rings, the fire in his eyes, what lives on even louder is what he left behind. A brand, a blueprint, a belief that no matter where you come from, if you work, if you rise, if you keep showing up, you can change the game, not just on the court, but far, far beyond it. The Last Dance, a cultural phenomenon. In 2020, long after his final shot and final game, the world stopped. Not just because of a global pause, but because a story returned. A window opened into the heart of a dynasty. And The Last Dance wasn't just a documentary. It was a time machine, a cultural moment, a collective reminder of what greatness truly looks like under pressure, behind closed doors, in the quiet chaos of competition. And as millions watched, some for the first time, some reliving their youth, they didn't just see the trophies or the highlights. They saw the obsession, the pain, the leadership, the sacrifices, the loneliness of being the best, and the price Michael Jordan paid to carry not just a team, but a generation. And suddenly, he wasn't just a superhero in sneakers. He was human, complex, flawed, brilliant, driven by something deeper than glory. A refusal to settle, a fire to win, a heart that couldn't accept less than everything. And as the world binge-watched 10 episodes of passion, drama, heartbreak, and glory, what echoed louder than any buzzer beater was the message that excellence isn't pretty, but it's powerful. And through every frame, The Last Dance didn't just honor a career, it reignited a legend, inspiring old fans, new fans, athletes, dreamers, and believers to chase something bigger than stats, to chase legacy, to give their all, to understand that true greatness isn't just remembered, it's felt. Because legends like Michael Jordan remind us that greatness isn't given. It's earned moment by moment, choice by choice. So if this story moved you, inspired you, or made you feel something real, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone chasing their own greatness. Because every dream starts with belief.